Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team Podcast. I'm your host, Steven Negishi. To my right on your screen, it is my co-host from The Awful Announcing. It is an associate editor, Ken Fang. And Ken, thanks for doing this on this Monday night. I know we usually reserve it for Sunday, um, but I got work this yesterday and perhaps next Sunday, so we might have to do it on a Mondays. But hopefully we will get back to the normal schedule very, very shortly. But how was your weekend? And thanks for joining me once again.
Good to be on with you. Also wanted to mention too, the fact is that if you're on your phone now, there is a new streaming platform. And I mean, we're still here, of course, where we're using our regular streaming service, but our platform on the phone now, there is also an ability, so it will come. You'll be able to see, but it's basically on your phone. It won't be stretched out. So there is a way that you'll be able to see us on your phone. So if you look at your phone in the portrait mode, you'll be able to see us, and rather than in the landscape. So you'll be able to see that, and it'll come out nicely on your phone as well. So we just wanted to mention that.
Exactly. It's a brand new feature that I'm still kind of learning. Obviously, they keep adding brand new features, and it's obviously AI powered to a degree. So hopefully, we'll keep on doing to make sure our podcast live stream will be as good as it is moving forward.
Exactly.
All right, Ken, let's get to it. Since we have to let you go at the top of the hour, let's look back at the week 11 of the NFL. Let's start with your Cleveland Browns once again. You play the Baltimore Ravens, and you guys actually held the Ravens in check for most of the game. And unfortunately, it came down to the probably last minute or so. Ravens won their fourth in a row. I believe, was it 23-20 the score was? Now, was it 23-20? Okay.
It was a winnable game.
Yes, and then I'll let you get to the big one, not just to the game, but also something that's been on the back burner for quite a while. It is the debut of Shadir Sanders and how he looked from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't planned, of course, because Dylan Gabriel got hurt. He went into concussion protocol yesterday. So what happened is that Shadir Sanders basically came out in the second half. He didn't. I mean, the fact is that there was a chance for him to win this game, but the problem is that the offensive line failed him again. He had to run for his life. He threw a pick that didn't look very good. This was in his first drive. It was just not very well done for him, and I really felt the fact is that now he's probably going to be starting next week, if depending on what happens with Dylan Gabriel, if he can start, if he can pass the protocol for his concussion. So we'll see about that. But overall, the Browns are winning this game. They were ahead for most of the game, and they were ahead by 2 scores. But once I saw that the offense was sputtering, the reason why that the Browns were ahead was on a pick six on Lamar Jackson, a ball that was tipped, deflected, and then was run back into the end zone. And really, to be honest with you, Lamar Jackson didn't look very good either. The fact is that he got sacked 4 times. There was opportunities for the Browns to put them away, but offense is just terrible. I give them. The Browns' defense is excellent. I mean, there's no doubt about that. If you just want to depend, if the Browns just played defense all game long, of course that's not possible. But if they played, they would have a chance to win this if they just depended on the defense. But not a very good effort by the offense. The offense just sputters. They couldn't close out opportunities in the red zone. They kicked field goals instead, which is why they only scored 20 points, Stephen. And it's not good enough when you kick field goals, and we'll talk about that later with other teams as well. But overall, the Browns just couldn't get it done. They lost, and there'll be questions next week whether it's going to be Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. Sanders didn't have a controlled environment, which he couldn't get his first drive. Usually, your first drive is scripted when you go in the game and you're playing the very first offensive series. Of course, he didn't have that opportunity. He had to come in and replace Dylan Gabriel, who was hurt. So really, no real opportunity for Sanders, and he had to run for his life. I don't think he really trusted his offensive line, and he really had some issues as well. So not happy. Game lost, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Christy Perez, thank you for joining us and commenting. Hello. Hopefully you're enjoying this live stream wherever you might be tonight. Now, regarding the Browns, we know that a lot of the talking points it has been that Kevin Stefanski just doesn't seem to like Shedeur Sanders all that much, and Dylan Gabriel was supposedly the guy that they wanted to stick and play for in its entirety, unless like something like we witnessed the concussion happened yesterday. Are you happy with how the Browns have handled Shedeur Sanders' development in the snap counts and all?
Absolutely not. He's just, as you mentioned, Kevin Stefanski didn't want to draft him, which is why they drafted Dylan Gabriel when they did. Again, this was a situation where, and I said this back in when we did our draft show, Steven, rather obviously to me that this was Jimmy Haslam's move. The fact that they traded Joe Flacco, who could have really helped him develop, was a Haslam move. And now Flacco's playing for Cincinnati. And while the Bengals aren't playing very well, Flacco is at least doing all he can to keep the Bengals in their game. So he could have been helped by a veteran leader out there, but instead, now that Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders have to fly blind, I think is really is a failure by the Cleveland management. And the fact is that the coach is not free to do what he wants. So I just think he's Stefanski's set up for failure. And I have a feeling that, we won't be seeing Stefanski. Haslam's not a guy to fire his coaches, but I don't think we'll see Stefanski. He's not long for this. I don't think he'll be back next season. I think we are basically watching him dead man walking right now.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way, with Paul DePodesta leaving and then going to another loser organization, the Colorado Rockies, and then his press conference earlier this week, or actually last week, literally took a shot at the whole Browns organization, ironically, and then also took a swipe at Stefanski about, DePodesta saying that I'm calling plays too, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So it's a real chaos and total mess once again inside the Cleveland Browns organization. And I totally agree. When you're as dysfunctional as the Browns have been from the time that they drafted both Gabriel and Sanders, it really made not much of a sense right now. And just Sanders is just a poster boy for everything that he says and does. And the fans just wanted to see him play. They got their wish, certainly at the cost of Dylan Gabriel's concussion, which obviously is not. There's nothing funny about when you suffer a concussion, but it's time for Stefanski to understand that the next 7 games that's left on the schedule, whether you win or not, you have to give Shedeur Sanders an opportunity to decide what exactly the Browns have him in. And and then move on from there. Even if Shedeur, despite a first-team practice snaps, all of this week, and if he still puts up another clunker, then a clunker of a game or two on a back-to-back situations, then I think you can draw an ultimate conclusion that Sanders is not good, and you have to either go get a quarterback in the upcoming draft, or maybe settle for Mac Jones type reclamation project as your quarterback, whoever the head coach is in 2026. So yeah, I really felt bad because I was Myles Garrett was awesome as always, and I legitimately thought that the Browns led the game for pretty much late into the game, and I thought Browns were going to pull off a massive shocker, with Shadir Sanders leading the way and everything. So, I do feel bad for Browns and the fans, and I think it's time for the Bears to make that commitment with Sanders, at least for the rest of the season. Now, moving on to my Bears, it was another hard attack inducing nail biter, 19-17 over the Minnesota Vikings. I tell you what, this game was more about the Bears' resiliency, because the execution just wasn't good. It was probably one of the rare games where Ben Johnson, I thought, didn't play a very good game at all. Certainly, it was plagued by another drop passes by the receivers. The run game, once again, was awesome. DeAndre Swift got 90 yards. Kyle Monangai scored the only touchdown for the Bears, I believe, in the first quarter, when in the first two drives, the Bears only got 2 yards in the first 2 yards. Both, I think, came on a DeAndre Swift run that only gained 1 yard each. Look, as great as the Bears' run game have been, and part of the reason why they have been so good after starting 0-2, there were a couple of times, yesterday, or even during regular season in the previous games, when the Bears face 2nd and 1 and 3rd and 1 situations, they go for a pass for some reason. Listen, you got Monangai and you got Swift running. Give the damn ball to them. Of course, it's not limited to just Ben Johnson and the Bears. I do see a lot of college and pro coaches sometimes deviate and get cute and throw on 2nd and 1, and then ended up, if it's an incomplete pass, then it's 3rd and 1, and then 4th and 1. So I felt that it was not a good game by Ben Johnson yesterday. And yet, in spite of this, the Bears stood tall when it mattered. I was thinking, I'm watching the deja vu of week 1 when the Bears had the lead, but they still ended up losing in the final quarter, 27-24, which certainly left a bitter taste in many Bears fans, myself included, a bitter taste in their mouth. And I thought we were watching the same thing happen again, because as poor as J.J. McCarthy was, he threw a game, what was supposedly a game-winning touchdown to Jordan Addison, with under a minute to go. But then the kickoff, the Bears special teams finally did something on that big kickoff. Yeah, big run back to set up a field goal. Cairo Santos missed a 45-yarder earlier. This one's about 48. Mm-hmm. I was nervous as hell, and if it wasn't for that kickoff return, the Bears would not have won that game.
And let's not bury the lead, Steven, because as a result, and also with Detroit's loss, the Bears now lead the NFC North Division, which I think is I don't think you or I really thought that could happen. I know that every Bears fan is hopeful, but this is reality right now. The Bears lead the NFC North, and it's the Detroit Lions right now that are on the outside looking in the NFC playoff picture. Now, of course, there's a long ways to go, but right now, let's look at reality. And as Bill Belichick once said, Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells once said, "You are what you are," and the Bears lead the NFC North Division right now and have a chance really to make a big impact. And Caleb Williams is looking very good right now. And he after that win, Steven, I had to give him credit. He wasn't jumping up and down. He was looking like, this is business. I have more business to take care of. This is a great win, but we have a lot more business to take care of. And that's a quarterback that I think you want to have on your sideline. That's the kind of look that he said, I have more business to do. Great win, but we have a lot more business to take care of. And I think that every Bears fan has to appreciate what Caleb Williams is doing right now for his team.
Absolutely. He kept avoiding sacks, spin moves after spin moves, all kinds of pressure yesterday. Certainly another drop passes. He missed two deep passes in his first two drives. A lot was being asked. I think Robert Flores, Brian Flores, excuse me, the defensive coordinator who loves to blitz. Blitzing was close to 80% yesterday, and yet, Caleb wasn't sacked until in the fourth quarter on first and second down, or probably the very first drive in the fourth quarter, which kind of foreshadow a struggle for the Bears to score or move the ball, because it was a bit out of sync, pretty much the entire game. The Bears had to settle for 4 field goals. After Kyle Monanga's touchdown. And that's where, you have a run game, you need to lean into it. And they certainly did, but still there were several occasions, like I said, 2nd and 1 and 3rd and 1. And, this is something that I've seen Ben Johnson do that in the previous games. They don't run the ball, they pass the ball. And rarely have I seen them convert on those 2nd and 1 and 3rd and 1s on passing situations. So that's something that needs to be still cleaned up and allow Caleb to be put in a better position, because you shouldn't do you shouldn't have a hard time picking up a yard if you're able to gain 8.5, 9 yards on either first or second down. I get it, it's 1 yard. The most defense will start to think, okay, this is going to be a run play, we're going to crowd the line of scrimmage, 7 or 8 man front. Still, the Bears have had successful running the ball ever since their bye week. They're second in the league in rushing total right now. So, I just hope that they are able to lean into that. And if the run game continues to click, the Bears are going to be very, very dangerous, because, Caleb Williams, completed only 50% of the passes yesterday. And the passing game is on the cusp, I think, of breaking out.
Right.
The final thing with Williams is that deep ball accuracy. That's been a problem. That was not a problem with him at USC or even in Oklahoma. And, here in the NFL, we have rarely seen him hit those deep passes, except for the week 3 flea flicker against the Dallas Cowboys. If you remember, Swift to Williams, and Williams just threw a bomb to Luther Burden, who was wide open. And,
right.
Yeah, it went in his hands. Perfect throw. We haven't seen that with him, with Rome Odunze still dropping some passes. DJ Moore had a very critical passes that dropped late in the fourth quarter that would have given the Bears a more chance to, not sweat it out. So I'll say this to end the Bears talk. There have been a lot of consternations and talks about how long can this last? Is this sustainable? And, certainly, even with the 7-3 record, I know a lot of fans aren't happy with how the things have kind of unraveled late in the game, especially like yesterday. Again, we were like, oh my gosh, this is a week 1 deja vu all over again. And again, the Bears' resiliency, somehow they are still there. And, Ben Johnson has completely transformed this team into a solid contending team. Will they win the division? No, I don't think so, because the schedule is about to get hellaciously difficult. The offense has to learn to finish. And that's where I think the balance of running game on short yard situations, and then just be able to hit the pass consistently, especially on the deep balls from Caleb Williams to whoever the receiver it is. I think if those things are, in the next 7-8 games left, if those things gets cleaned up, I still think that the Bears have a decent shot at making the playoffs, maybe as a wild card, not as a division winner.
Well,
so
right now, let's just put it this way. If the season ended now, the Bears would be hosting a playoff game on wild card weekend.
Against the Packers of all teams.
Right. Now, it's still a long ways to go. But the fact is that the Bears, they're winning these games. And these are games that last season they were not winning.
No.
or they're showing a lot of character here. And like I
Yep.
said, Caleb Williams is showing me he's a quarterback I'd love to have on the Browns right now, Steven. But I think he would be killed. But he is showing a lot of character. And like I said, when he went off that bench after the game-winning field goal, he was looking, said, we have more business to do. I'm thrilled. We won. But he just looked like a quarterback that knew that there was more business to do, and he needed to. And the fact is that the Bears still have a long ways to go. But right now, there has to be some real optimism in Second City, Stephen, that the Bears have a great shot to make the playoffs right now, as they do. They still got to win their games. But right now, I have to think right now is that with Detroit, the way that they're playing, and with Minnesota right now, J.J. McCarthy has regressed since he started to come in. This division is for the taking right now for the Bears, and I think there's a great opportunity there.
Right. Like I said, the schedule gets difficult. There's still issues that needs to be cleaned up, like offensive penalties that we still see them occasionally. The defense has to play much better. They have to get some pressure. Yesterday, J.J. McCarthy didn't have, the Bears couldn't sack him yesterday at all, which was preposterous considering how bad he was playing. So hopefully those things will get cleaned up as the season gets very, very difficult for the rest of the season. All right, let's talk about the rest of the league. I apologize there. My tab just probably got mishandled there. A couple of games that really stood out to me. The Broncos beat the Chiefs. And I have to think that this game was probably the signaling of the end of Kansas City's AFC West dominance, which they have won 7 of the last 9 divisions. And, I think they might be not making the playoffs. There's a good chance they're not making the playoffs, Ken.
Yeah, it's a possibility. But you know what? I still have to say that they still have a great opportunity. Are they going to win the division? No. Right now, Sean Payton has Bo Nix. That defense, he's always had one thing about a Sean Payton team. They have a great defense, and that's exactly what they did. They held Kansas City, as you mentioned, you talked about earlier about field goals, and I talked about when you had the opportunity to score, kicking field goals isn't going to get it done. Denver was holding KC to field goals, and they were putting a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes yesterday. Granted, they were still had a chance to win that game. They threw a touchdown to Travis Kelce, who broke a record yesterday. But still, I think that right now, to be honest with you, Steven, Kansas City, they're a team right now on the outside looking in the AFC playoff picture. I still think they're going to make it. I don't put it past this team. They're not going to win the division with the way that Denver is playing right now. But I still don't put it past Kansas City to go on a 7-game winning streak. They're 5-5 right now. They're not going to win the division, but I still think that they have a great opportunity to get to the playoffs. And I still think that they have a chance to make a correction and still get to the playoffs.
Well, their odds just became very, very difficult after yesterday's loss.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on, Rams and the Seahawks for the supremacy of the NFC West. They came in at 7-2 each. The Rams prevail as Seahawks missed a long field goal attempt at the buzzer, which didn't have a chance in hell with the way the ball sailed towards right. So now the Rams are 8-2. Seahawks are still 1 game behind us, 7-3. We talked about, the Rams or Seahawks, the winner, in our last week's chat. Whoever wins this game would have a very good shot at maybe dethroning the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, which we'll get to in a little bit. But is Matt Stafford, in your opinion, a legitimate MVP candidate? Is he your number one right now with the way he's playing?
Stafford, here's a guy that with yesterday's win, excuse me, for the first time, is now over 500 in his career. It's hard to believe that, but he had really bad years in Detroit, and that caused. I mean, he was like the best thing out there. Now he's won a Super Bowl. He's playing extremely well. His interceptions are down. Here's a guy that, even though he lost some receivers this year because of free agency, he's still doing a great job. Abubakar Nakua was hurt earlier this season, Steven. So I have to say that he's doing a fantastic job out there, and he's got to be a candidate for the for most valuable player. Sam Darnold. Here's a guy that, again, finds a way to regress every time. He did it last year in Minnesota. He did it right in the end when they were going for a number 1 seed, and then he regressed and then played horribly in the playoffs. He's doing it again. 4 interceptions yesterday, and he didn't look good. But they still had a chance to win this game, Steven. They still had a chance, despite Sam Darnold looking horrible out there. They had a chance for a game-winning score. I don't know how that happened. The Rams should have dominated this game a little bit more than they did, but they gave Seattle an opportunity to win the game at the end. But Sam Darnold, he just looked horrible out there. And there were times, Steven, I really thought that it's like he was looking at ghosts, because I don't know what he was throwing to. I really don't know. I'm looking at NFL Red Zone yesterday, and here he is throwing a horrible interception. And I'm looking, and it's like there's not even a receiver nearby. So here's the regression of Sam Darnold again. That's happening late in the season. I don't know what it is, but New York Jets fans have known this all along. As much as we like to see Sam Darnold, he's a great story for the first part of the season, for the first 2/3 of the season, and then this happens. So I don't know. If you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, you have to be really worried about what's going to be coming up, because if Sam Darnold doesn't figure it out, they could have a precipitous fall. Right now, Steven, they're the 5th seeded team in the NFC. They could find a way to fall, and San Francisco still trying to figure out their quarterback. Brock Purdy played very well yesterday against Arizona. So if they don't figure it out, they could be, even though they had a chance, and they were at a point where they were in a number 1 or number 2 seed earlier this season, Steven. Seattle could get we're talking about precipitous fall. We could see them play themselves out of the playoffs if Sam Darnold doesn't figure this out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Triple A Ash, hi. Thanks for joining us, and we definitely noticed you from your comments there. Sorry for the late response there. The other games that really caught our attention, of course, is the Sunday night game. I live in the Lions country. In a shockingly low score defensive battle, the Eagles beat the Lions 16-9. People here in Detroit are literally freaking out right now because they fall to 6-4. They're in the 3rd in the division right now. As of today, they're not even in the playoff race. Dan Campbell changed the play caller. He took over from Johnny Morton. And literally right now, of course, last week he looked great against the Washington team that is 6-7. So 3-7, old and injury riddled. That was an easy game. And then when you step up in the competition yesterday, Dan Campbell kept going on 4th downs and just never came close to converting any of them. I think they were 0-for-5 or something like that.
Right.
It was very difficult watching the Lions, and people are thinking maybe Dan Campbell is not the right coach, or at least he has to get through this year just to maybe find his another Ben Johnson, because Ben Johnson's loss is greatly felt. And watching yesterday's game was probably the nail in the coffin in that sentiment.
Yeah. Also, Philadelphia's defense continues to they were dominant yesterday. Jared Goff looked very pedestrian. They were rushing him. The Fangio, the defensive coordinator for Nick Fangio, I think it was the
Yeah.
defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, continues to draw up wonderful blitzes at the right time, and Jared Goff looked really scared out there. This is the first time I've seen him look scared and not knowing where to throw because he was getting hit left and right. I mean, he wasn't necessarily getting sacked, but the pressure by Philadelphia's defense yesterday caused Goff to look all over the place, and he wasn't throwing his normal self, Steven.
Yeah.
And even though it was a one-score game for most of the game, you really felt Detroit really didn't have a shot to make these opportunities because, as you mentioned, on fourth down, Philadelphia would find a way to make a stop, even in the a chance where they were fourth and goal, and the great defense by the secondary to make sure that passes weren't getting completed. So I gotta say, right now, Philadelphia again, they have Jahmyr Gibbs, who is a great runner. They're not using him as much. They deal well between the 20s, but when they get to the goal line in the red zone, they just can't finish the job. So, gotta say, Detroit, as we mentioned, right now on the eighth spot right now in the playoffs. If the playoffs started today, as we mentioned, Chicago right now leading the division. Minnesota
The Lions won't even play. The Lions are not even in.
Right. So the Minnesota Vikings, not even in the playoff picture. So the NFC North is right now there for the taking, Steven. And Green Bay's got to figure it out. I mean, Jordan Love doesn't look good at all. Here's a guy, everyone mentioned, at age 27, Brett Favre won a Super Bowl. At age 27, Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl. But they're on a higher level than Jordan Love is right now, who's age 27. Jordan Love is not playing very well as a quarterback. And Green Bay, they have a very good defense. But right now, that NFC North is primed for the taking, Steven. Someone's got to win that division. And it's not that nobody wants it. It's just the fact that it's right now it's topsy-turvy. And Chicago is completing the job done right now. But I got to say, right now, Detroit not looking very good. And they got to, as I mentioned, like Sam Darnold's got to figure it out. That, the Detroit Lions have got to get the offense in gear here. Otherwise, that they're going to be out of the playoffs, especially after a team that was really thought that they were going to be going to the Super Bowl this year. And, I don't know what's going on with them. I really don't.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting finish to the finish line for many of the NFC North teams. Again, there are several games that they haven't yet to face each other yet. The Bears still have 2 games with Green Bay in the 3-week span. The Lions still have to welcome the Green Bay Packers at home. They still have to go to Minnesota and visit Chicago. So they have 3 games out of the 2, on the road outside the division, I believe. So, playing in a cold outdoors will be a great test for the Lions, both mentally and physically. And if they still have what it takes to, not only win the division, but get to the Super Bowl that has long eluded them for, the last couple of years.
Right.
So far. The Packers, they actually trailed the Giants, who fired Brian Daboll. And, last Monday at this time, Jordan Love did not look good against the Philadelphia Eagles, struggled in a very cold, low-scoring game. Matt LaFleur's job security is being brought up. I'm sure, probably 4 or 5 teams would fire, their head coach just to hire, Matt LaFleur. I don't know if it's a good strategy or not, but we'll see how the
his
Packers
coaching
finish.
Yeah, his coaching, his decision, especially as we mentioned last Monday, some really, really horrible decisions out there, Stephen. We talked about it. We talked about it last week, but I just got to say, here's a guy that has Jordan Love is not looking good out there. As you mentioned, they really should have defeated and played much better against the New York Giants team that is reeling right now. They've got, and I really don't understand how the Giants were leading that game at one point yesterday. So I don't know. Green Bay, they're in the playoff picture, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think that they're a paper tiger right now, and they, I believe, are in the seventh in right now in the playoff spot. I can really see them falling out and not even making the playoffs this season. And here's a team that was thought that they get Micah Parsons, they have a chance for that defense to really solidify, but it hasn't happened yet, and I don't even know if it will this season.
It's going to be a very interesting. It was a very interesting week of NFL actions this past Sunday. 1 week before Thanksgiving, there could be some more interesting games. The Chiefs Colts. This is going to be a huge one for the Chiefs. If the Chiefs lose, they could probably go on a free fall. Unfortunately, the Vikings and the Packers face each other. Certainly in the jockeying for the position in the NFC North for hopefully a better position with the playoffs. Sunday night, Bucks Rams. That's going to be a huge game. The Bucks have lost the last two games, and yesterday they were completely blown out in a 6 touchdowns scored by Josh Allen himself. So that's going to be a very interesting game as well. All right, Kevin. All right, let's end the NFL. And let's talk about the other stories that kind of dominated. We have about 20 minutes left. One of the stories, excuse me, I don't know why I put up it was a sign from a couple of weeks ago. The F1 is going away. No, not going away. Well, technically, they're leaving ESPN. So that's I kind of misused the term going away. But they are moving to Apple TV. And speaking of Apple TV, by the way, Ken was actually discussing about his visit to MLS Apple Studios in your neck of the woods. You got a tour. I believe that was 2 weeks ago or so, Ken?
Yeah, that was last month over at MLS Productions. It's run by MLS, but they're feeding Apple TV. Very impressed. I'm going to be finishing my story on that. It's on my Substack, by the way, fangsbites.substack.com. But I have to say that, interestingly enough, now that MLS, and we'll talk about this, MLS is now going to match the European schedule, the global schedule.
Right. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes,
they're trying to get better players, and hopefully they'll be able to be a little bit more competitive in the transfer window. Apple TV and also MLS signed a new, basically cut 3 years off of their agreement. There's going to be no more paywall for MLS Season Pass. You don't need a subscription now. I think because of streaming services and the cost, I think it's prohibitive for fans to keep paying. So I think this is a good move by Apple to decide to let, as of next season, no more paywall. The new season schedule will start in the fall of 2027. So what's going to happen, Steven, after this upcoming season in 2026, MLS, after the season, is going to run a short 14 game schedule, which is going to run. They're going to run a very quick schedule, and then they're going to do a transition. So you're not going to forget about MLS. MLS is also going to run that. Apple TV is going to provide all those games free, and then they'll start in the late summer of 2027, which I think is a good move. They're also going to have a winter break, and of course, they have to have an issue with games in the Northeast, like in New York, in Foxborough, Chicago, those winter cities.
Minnesota too, yeah.
Well, Minnesota, I think do they play in US Bank Stadium? I think they play in US Bank Stadium. I think they'll be okay.
No. They have an outdoors.
Oh, they have an outdoor stadium? Okay.
A couple of years ago, USMNT and Costa Rica or Nicaragua, I forgot, some Central American teams were forced to play during the friendlies or maybe the CONCACAF 2022 CONCACAF
Oh yeah,
qualifier.
they played in Denver. They play. Oh, they also
It was
played.
in a bitter. It was a bitter frostbites. I think multiple players on the opposing side suffered multiple frostbites, if
Right.
you remember, in a horrific conditions where the U.S. Still manages to win, in less than stellar fashion. So yeah, Minnesota does play outdoors, and I do think that a winter, like the teams in the Midwest or North, Columbus, Cincinnati. I could also include them in that mix as well. Snow, sleet, cold temperature conditions. Just like they're adopting a winter break like German Bundesliga is. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that approach. I know some people are like are not happy with it. Calling people who have long called this schedule change Euro snobs or whatnot. But in reality, you're not really going up against college football. Some of the first like 3 months during the football season, both NFL and college, at least with the winter break, for 3 weeks to try and play in a much better condition as much as possible. In reality, you're now going up against the NBA and the NHL for late January and February, and then parts of March. And then from March and April onwards, you're just basically facing baseball, and then the playoffs in both NBA and
Mm-hmm.
the NFL, and the NHL. You're not competing against football only for just 3 months. And I don't understand the notion that we're going up against football or just basically American football, that is, and it's not doing well, or it will hurt the game itself. I don't think that explanation doesn't seem to hold its leg up, though, Ken.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is something that has to be done. If you're a league that wants to be considered an upper echelon, a top flight league, you're going to have to make this move. And plus, the World Cup is played. You can't have your season, which MLS has had ever since it started, going up against the World Cup. So, granted, they are going to take a break in 2026 when the World Cup is playing here next year. Well, MLS will have that. They're going to take a break. Same with NWSL. They're going to take a break at the same time. I think it's a good move by the MLS to do this. They really need to be relevant, and I think they will start to attract some top flight talent from Europe to play here. In addition to the players that have come, it won't be known as a retirement league anymore. If the MLS owners want to pony up and be considered a top flight league, they're going to have to make this change, and that's why they did it. And I think Don Garber, who helped to spearhead this move, and we've talked about how toothless Don Garber has been in before, but this is one of the that I think he will be considered as one of the bigger parts of his legacy in a positive move, Stephen, as opposed to what he's done in the past.
Right. I'll give credit where credit is due. At least this move. We had Taylor Twellman earlier this year, maybe several months ago, and that he did promise and guaranteed that it was happening. So we finally got that. And I'll give Don Garber credit where credit is due, for the time being. And it will also make it easier for American players to transfer to, Europe, because the calendars are now aligned. So that the U.S. players on a normal year, because it ends in November or October or November, they would have to transfer in January transfer window when the season is already halfway done. So it makes it very, very difficult for Americans to kind of blend in and, show their mettle, because already the season is halfway over and most coaches wouldn't want to tinker with the position, the formation, or even the player starting lineups. And it's even more difficult for Americans to make their impact because they're not exactly, highly rated outside of maybe the U.S. market that they want to tap into, perhaps. But I think it's a great move. Removing the paywall, I think it's quite a bold move in my opinion, Ken. Hopefully, the MLS puts a quality soccer for a change, because right now, it's unfair to compare to Europe and other countries, but it somewhat still pales in comparison
Yeah,
in
it's
terms
still
of
it's not
the
it's not the
overall
level. It's
quality.
not the level. It's not the you even though you have Messi and you have Son over in LA, you just don't and a Suarez who's playing in Inter Miami, but it's way past his prime. Now you have an ability to attract some talent who want to play in the United States, who want to have a better a climate, maybe playing in Florida,
Yeah,
playing. There's an opportunity for them for MLS owners like unfortunately Jimmy Haslam, who runs the Memphis, Nashville, yeah,
Columbus.
Columbus. But here's a chance for him to bring in some top flight talent and owners who want to do that. They want to spend the money. They were Johnny. Don't forget Johnny Infantino came to the United States and said MLS could. Now he did some bluster by saying the MLS could be the best league in the world. That's not going to happen. But at least now MLS owners can compete and say, hey, now I can get some talent and maybe perhaps, surpass the Saudi league, which is also attracting major talent as well. It's a chance that now that you're aligned with all the major soccer leagues around the world, here's an opportunity for MLS. As I mentioned, they may not get on the level of a Bundesliga or any other else, but maybe they could get on the level of an A league in Australia, get some good talent, and surpass some of the Asian leagues, which are known as which are basically known as feeder leagues for the Europeans.
Absolutely. This is going to force the owners, the the MLS owners who does own other entities, of course, to force them to step up and improve the quality of the game. With the World Cup coming, the world is watching. And then the domestic league is not up there yet. Even though MLS inception was well over 30 years ago. The league has somewhat stagnated. I know there have been some questionable numbers when it comes to aligning themselves with the Apple TV and all of that. So hopefully, this is a major step towards the league trying to make themselves more relevant and force them to be in the game to compete, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, since we're almost closing time, the NFL game in Madrid drew raves. This was the Miami and Washington. On paper, before the season began, it looked like it was a very good game. But both teams have been really, really struggling. Miami won in a very sloppy one, 16-13 in overtime. Ken, a lot of people kind of drew raves about the venue of the game, Santiago Bernabeu, which went through a massive transformation a couple of years ago, which completed not too long ago, using their own money to build that beautiful stadium, which we all saw. Real Madrid, their state-of-the-art facility had. I believe I'm trying to pick it up on the game yesterday. I think a lot of people saw it was 100% grass, and then the grass, once the game is over, that there's a conveyor system that drops them all the way down, where they keep the grass and let it grow in a fantastic environment.
Yeah,
And it was amazing. It was amazing, and it kind of drew a lot of raves from many American fans who watched the game, and of course, some of them are big diehard soccer fans too, because they root Real Madrid, FC Barcelona, and so forth. But I just couldn't help but think, the NFL goes overseas and play in these beautiful soccer stadiums, which we've seen for the last couple of years. Several weeks ago, it was the Olympic Stadium in Berlin. That's a 100%
and also Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in England. They played in Ireland. They're going to repeat that again this next season. They played at Corinthians Stadium in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The last couple of years, I believe they're going to go to Maracanã Stadium in Rio next season. They're also going to play in Melbourne, Australia. That's going to be a logistical nightmare because that is a very long flight. That is an 18-hour flight, Stephen. That is not going to be easy. So they're going to have to either figure out to give a double bye somehow to whichever team goes there, or maybe they start the season in Australia so the teams can get acclimated and then come back. I don't know how they're going to figure that out, but they are going to definitely play in Melbourne. But I got to say that yesterday, yes, it was a beautiful, a great atmosphere. 79,000 fans were in the Bonnabel Stadium. It was wonderful to watch. The fans are great. This is a Miami home area because Miami wants to have all Hispanic language, Spanish language fans. So that is their territory. And they won the game. Granted, Mike McDaniel tried to lose the game a couple times with his decisions, but that's Mike McDaniel. You got to say that. And then Marcus Mariota yesterday, I don't know what he was throwing to in the overtime. Very first play from scrimmage, so it was an interception. And then McDaniel said, okay, let's not mess around. We'll get to the 10-yard line and kick the field goal, and they won 16-13. But yeah,
look at this, Ken.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was the way that they transformed the stadium. As you mentioned, it's an underground irrigated stadium, irrigated field. And it was, from what I was listening to yesterday from Kenny Albert, he and Jonathan Vilma were calling the game. It was on NFL Network, but they're a Fox crew. They mentioned how it was a hydraulic system, and there was an underground greenhouse to help grow that field and keep it. And I think that's a model for United States, for especially for those stadiums that want to have dome stadiums. So instead of having grass, instead of having the field turf, they can use a way to keep the grass green and grow it underground. I think it's a great idea. They have something similar over in the Legion Field. They can wheel a field out and wheel it back in. It's all grass. Same with State Farm Stadium, which is in Glendale. They have something similar. But I think that's what they have in Santiago Bernabeu Stadium is a model for the United States. I think that would be wonderful to see. But the NFL
that's the problem. The NFL, kind of like ironically, they kind of set themselves up in problems because the owners themselves, they continue to trot out substandard, synthetic fiber, like a turf
with
concrete with the rubber, like the ones at the MetLife, which has drawn significant criticism with the amount of injuries. It's funny, with these types of games, you try to draw new audiences, but at the same time, when you see what's teams like Real Madrid is doing, building or remodeling these beautiful stadiums without using corporate, or tax money from the the residents or the states and so forth, it does kind of open up some, like a can of worms in some cases, which obviously a lot of NFL owners probably wouldn't want to answer it because they would rather rely on taxpayers' money to build or refurbish a new stadium and so forth. So
right.
Well, Ken, listen, it's almost 8:00, and I know you have to leave. So thank you for doing this on short notice. And more than likely, we'll do this again 7 p.m. Next Monday, the week of Thanksgiving. And then hopefully we'll get back to the regular Sunday night, probably on the following week, which is obviously the first week of December. So thank you for doing this, Ken, on short notice. Thank you for 67 people who joined us and left some comments earlier today as well. Ken, listen, let's do this again next Monday. Have a wonderful evening, and look forward to doing this again next Monday night.
And once again, I will be putting the two different streams, one for TV and tablet devices, and one for phones on my Twitter, on my X page, and my Blue Sky. So we appreciate it. So you can see if you're whatever device you're on, you can watch us on your stream. So we thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next Monday. And we'll talk about NFL Week 12 and preview NFL Week 13 in Thanksgiving. So we look forward to seeing you next week.